Picture a city, not a messy, crowded one, a clean one. A smart one. Every street in a perfect line. Every house with its own bathroom, fresh water coming in, dirty water going out. People trading goods with faraway lands. And here's the wild part. Nobody was in charge, no king, no pharaoh, no boss sitting on a golden throne. Just people, working together, building something incredible. Sound like a fantasy? It was real. And it happened 5,000 years ago. For a long time, we thought we knew how the ancient world worked. Egypt came first, with its pyramids and pharaohs. Then Mesopotamia with its ziggurats and clay tablets. These were the big names, the ones in every history book. But hiding in the shadows, along the banks of a river in South Asia, was something even bigger, something even older, the Indus Valley civilization. And most people today have never heard of it. That is the problem we are here to fix. When you think of ancient Egypt, what comes to mind? The pyramids, right? The Sphinx. Kings wrapped in gold. Giant statues of gods. Egypt has this pull on us. It is dramatic. It is beautiful. It is everywhere in movies and museums. And honestly, it deserves a lot of credit. The Great Pyramid of Giza was the tallest building on Earth for 4,000 years. 4,000 years. Let that sink in. To build it, workers moved over 2 million stone blocks. Some of those blocks weighed as much as 80 tons. The base of the pyramid is so flat and level that even today, with all our tools and technology, engineers are amazed. We still do not fully understand how they did it. And that mystery is a big part of why Egypt still fascinates us. But the pyramids tell us something important. They tell us about power. One man, the pharaoh, could point at a piece of desert and say, "Build me something that touches the sky." And hundreds of thousands of people would do it. Egypt had a powerful central government. It had priests, scribes, engineers, and soldiers. It had a system that kept everything running for over 3,000 years. That is not just impressive. That is almost unbelievable. Egypt also left us its words. Hieroglyphs. We can read them today. We know their stories, their prayers, their jokes, their love poems, their medical notes. An ancient Egyptian document called the Edwin Smith Papyrus describes surgeries and injuries with a detail that sounds almost modern. Egypt spoke to the future, and the future listened. Now let us travel east, way east, to a river called the Indus, and to a world that most people have never explored. The Indus Valley civilization grew up in what is now Pakistan and northwest India. At its height, it was huge, bigger than Egypt, bigger than Mesopotamia. It covered around 1.5 million square kilometers. It had a population that some experts estimate at 5 million people, and it had cities. Really, really good cities. Archaeologists first started digging up these cities in the 1920s. What they found shocked them. The city of Mohenjo-Daro had streets laid out in a perfect grid, not crooked, winding lanes. A grid, like a modern city, north to south, east to west. Perfectly planned before a single brick was laid. And the bricks. Every single brick across the entire civilization was made to the same ratio. 1 to 2 to 4. It did not matter if you were in a big city or a tiny village hundreds of miles away. The bricks matched. That kind of consistency does not happen by accident. That takes organization. That takes rules everyone agreed to follow. But here is the part that really blows people's minds. The plumbing. Almost every home in the Indus Valley had a bathroom. Not a fancy one, but a real one. Connected to a real drainage system that ran under the streets. Covered pipes carrying waste away from homes. A whole network of sanitation built into the city from the very beginning. Even the smaller, poorer homes on the edges of the city were connected. This was not a luxury for rich people. This was for everyone. Meanwhile, in the rest of the ancient world, people were dealing with open sewers and disease and filth. The Indus Valley was doing something that European cities would not manage until the 1800s. The 1800s, that is thousands of years later. So if we are talking about quality of life, about keeping people healthy, about building cities that actually worked for the people living in them, the Indus Valley wins. It is not even close. Now here's where the story gets really strange, really mysterious. We cannot find their kings. Not one. In Egypt, we have royal tombs stuffed with treasure. We have giant statues of pharaohs. We have names carved into every wall. In Mesopotamia, we have king lists and palace records going back thousands of years. But in the Indus Valley, there is nothing like that. No grand tombs, no victory carvings. No images of powerful rulers standing over defeated enemies. The houses in Harappan cities were more equal in size than in almost any other ancient society. Nobody seemed to live in a massive palace while everyone else lived in a tiny hut. For a century, archaeologists kept digging and looking. They assumed the palaces were just buried deeper, hidden under more sand and silt, but they kept not finding them. And slowly, a new idea started to take shape. What if there were no palaces because there were no kings? What if the Indus Valley civilization was run differently? Not by one ruler at the top, but by groups of people working together? Merchants, community leaders, different groups with different roles but no single person bossing everyone else around. Historians call this heterarchy. It is the opposite of a pyramid. No one is on top, everyone has a role. If that is true, then the Indus Valley built one of the greatest civilizations in human history, without kings, without empires, without armies of conquest. They built it through cooperation. That idea is powerful. It is almost hard to believe. But the evidence keeps pointing in that direction. They also traded with the world. Indus Valley merchants sent goods to Mesopotamia, to the Persian Gulf, to Central Asia. Their distinctive carved seals have been found far from home. Proof that these people were connected to a global network of commerce thousands of years before globalization was even a word. Some scholars believe their writing, which we still cannot read, was an accounting system for tracking trade. A ledger from merchants moving tin and bronze across continents. And that writing, that undeciphered script. It is one of the great frustrations of archaeology. We have thousands of those small carved seals with symbols on them. Beautiful little objects. Animals, patterns, script. But no one has cracked the code. No Rosetta Stone has turned up to help us. Until someone figures it out, there is a wall between us and their inner world. We can see their cities. We can walk their streets. But we cannot hear their voices. Egypt speaks to us. The Indus Valley whispers. Now, what happened to them? You may have heard wild stories. Radioactive skeletons, ancient nuclear blasts, glassified rock from some kind of explosion. These stories are dramatic and fun, but they are not true. The real story of how the Indus Valley ended is slower, sadder, and honestly more interesting. Climate change got them. The monsoons weakened. The rains came less and less. A great river called the Saraswati began to dry up. Without enough water, farming became harder. Cities that had thrived for centuries began to empty out. People moved. Slowly, in groups over generations, they drifted towards smaller villages. They did not get blown up. They adapted. They transformed. And here is the part that rewrites history. New evidence from a site called Burana in India suggests the roots of this civilization go back 8,000 years. 8,000. If that holds up, then the Indus Valley was not just a contemporary of Egypt. It was far older. It was building organized communities while Egypt was still figuring out farming. It would make the Indus Valley the oldest urban civilization on Earth. The oldest. Not second. Not third. First. So let us come back to the big question. Who was actually more advanced? Egypt gave us monuments that still stand, a written language we can still read. 3,000 years of continuous culture. Art, medicine, mathematics, mythology. Egypt spoke loudly to the future, and the future remembered. The Indus Valley gave us something quieter but maybe more meaningful. It gave us cities built for people, not for kings. Streets that were clean. Homes with running water. A society that may have proved something radical. That you do not need a dictator to build something great. That cooperation can create civilization. That the common good is worth more than the glory of one person. They built a massive public bath for the community at a time when every other civilization was building tombs for rulers. They chose the people over the pharaoh. Every single time. One civilization built for eternity and for ego. The other built for daily life and for everyone. Egypt left us spectacle. The Indus Valley left us sanitation. And if you had to choose one to actually live in, you would probably choose the one with the working bathroom. But let us slow down for a second. Because Egypt was not just about showing off. Egypt figured out things that changed the world. Their doctors were writing medical guides while most people had never even seen a written word. They studied the stars. They tracked the seasons. They built calendars accurate enough to plan harvests. They invented tools for measuring land after the Nile flooded every year and washed away property boundaries. Their math was good enough to design buildings that have stood for thousands of years. And their art. Walk into any museum in the world and you will find Egyptian art, paintings of gods and animals and people going about their daily lives. It is colorful. It is detailed. It is full of story. Egypt wanted to be remembered, and it worked. We remember them. The Indus Valley also made beautiful things. Small carved seals with animals on them. Tiny bronze statues showing dancers mid-step. Jewelry made from shells and gemstones. These were people who appreciated beauty, who cared about the look of things. But because we cannot read their script, we do not know the stories behind these objects. We do not know the names of the artists. We do not know what they believed or what they feared or what made them laugh. That silence is the hardest part of the Indus Valley story. Imagine finding a brilliant painting with no name on it. You can see how good it is. You can feel the skill and the care. But you cannot ask the painter a single question. That is what it feels like to study this civilization. We admire what they built. We are amazed by what they achieved. But they cannot tell us why, and maybe that is what makes them so fascinating. They are a puzzle with missing pieces. Every new dig, every new site, every new discovery adds one more piece to the board. Right now, archaeologists are still finding new Indus Valley cities. New evidence, new clues. The story is not finished. It is still being written, one careful brushstroke at a time, in the dust of South Asia. So the next time someone asks you about the great civilizations of the ancient world, do not just say Egypt. Do not just say Mesopotamia. Say the name that history almost forgot, the Indus Valley. Bigger than both. Older than we thought, and still full of secrets. The Indus Valley civilization is not just a collection of old ruins buried under Pakistani soil. It is a blueprint. A forgotten experiment in how humans can live together without someone forcing them to. It is proof that inequality is not inevitable. That great cities do not require great tyrants. As archaeologists keep digging, keep finding new sites, keep pushing back the timeline further and further into the past, one thing becomes clearer. We have been telling the story of human history with some very big chapters missing. The Indus Valley is one of those missing chapters. And the more we read it, the more it feels like it was written for us. Not for the kings, not for the pharaohs. For the people who just wanted clean streets, a working drain, and a fair shot.